What if, in a single night, everything you loved disappeared? Your home, your family, your freedom. What would be left of you? One man faced that unthinkable darkness, and instead of breaking, he found something eternal, something not even death could touch. Viktor Frankl didn't just survive the Holocaust. He uncovered a truth so powerful, it still saves lives today. This is not a tale of tragedy. It's the story of meaning and how, even in the darkest place on earth, the light inside us can survive. Part 1. Stripped of everything. In 1942, Viktor Frankl was a respected young psychiatrist in Vienna. He had a thriving career, a loving wife, devoted parents, and a future that seemed full of promise. But that future vanished in an instant. He and his family were seized by the Nazis and transported to a concentration camp. What came next defies belief. His papers, his name, his wedding ring, all taken. He became nothing more than a number stitched onto a uniform. Within days, he was stripped not only of his freedom, but of nearly everyone he loved. In that place of starvation, cruelty, and death, many gave up. Some collapsed inward, others became violent or numb. But Frankl saw something else. He noticed that among the prisoners, who had all lost everything, some still managed to hold themselves upright. Some still smiled, shared a crust of bread, comforted a stranger. It wasn't strength that kept them alive. It was something invisible, something the Nazis couldn't steal. It was meaning. Frankl began to wonder, why do some people crumble in the face of suffering, while others rise with dignity, even in hell? He realized the difference wasn't in what happened to them. It was in how they related to what happened, what they held on to inside. He came to believe that between despair and survival, there was a narrow bridge, and that bridge was purpose. In that place of nightmares, Frankl began planting the seed of an idea, one that would grow into a new understanding of the human soul. And now, in the next part of this story, we'll step into the most sacred discovery he ever made, the last freedom no one can take from you. After being stripped of everything, his home, his identity, his family, Viktor Frankl stood face to face with a haunting question. What remains of a person when everything has been taken away? In the bitter cold of the concentration camp, surrounded by death and despair, Frankl discovered something profound, something that no captor could steal. Part 2, the last human freedom. Viktor Frankl called it the last of the human freedoms. He said, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the freedom to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. It may seem impossible. How can there be any freedom in a place designed to destroy the human spirit? And yet, in that very place, Frankl discovered that the ultimate power wasn't outside of him. It was within. Even when starved, beaten, and humiliated, he could still decide how to respond. That small inner space between stimulus and reaction became sacred. He could choose to hate, or he could choose to observe. He could collapse into despair or reflect with awareness. He could let darkness consume him or nurture a fragile flame of light inside. This was not about being cheerful, not about pretending things were okay. This was not false hope. It was clarity. The realization that while he could not control the cruelty around him, he could control the dignity within him. Every day the camp took something from him, but every day he reclaimed something greater, his ability to respond with purpose. And in that choice, again and again, he found a quiet, unshakable strength. In that place where everything was stripped away, Frankl realized, we are not defined by what happens to us. We are defined by the space we hold inside. And now, in the next chapter of his journey, Frankl would go even deeper into the heart of suffering itself to discover a truth even more extraordinary. That pain too can hold meaning. After discovering that no one could take away his ability to choose his attitude, Viktor Frankl began to look more deeply into the suffering itself. Could pain be more than just something to endure? Could it be a teacher? Part 3. Finding Meaning in Suffering. Frankl wrote, "Suffering ceases to be suffering the moment it finds meaning." This doesn't mean suffering becomes pleasant. It doesn't mean we welcome it or pretend it isn't painful. What it means is that suffering, when met with purpose, changes shape. It stops being chaos. It becomes part of a story. To Frankl, suffering wasn't just an obstacle. It was a mirror. It didn't ask, how much can you endure? It asked, why do you endure? Even in the bleakest hours of the camp, he watched how some prisoners, despite having nothing, still held on to life. Some found meaning in their memories of love, the image of a child's smile, the feel of a mother's hand. Others in their faith, believing there was a reason beyond this world. Some clung to the hope of returning to unfinished work, a book, a project, a promise. Frankl himself imagined holding his wife's hand again. He didn't know if she was still alive, but in his mind he saw her face, heard her voice, and felt a wave of warmth rise through the cold. That imagined moment became real, not outside, but inside, and it gave him strength. He realized that even when your body is in agony, the soul can still speak. Even when the world outside is stripped of all meaning, the world within can create it. And when it does, you're no longer just surviving. You're transforming. You're taking the raw material of suffering, fear, pain, loss, and forging from it something radiant and unshakable. Frankl understood, we are not just what happens to us, we are what we do with what happens. And next, he would discover that this question, what do I do with this? Wasn't just about survival, it was the very heart of living. After learning that suffering can hold meaning, Frankl came to a realization that would redefine how he saw life itself. What if life wasn't something to master, but something that questions us? Part 4. Life is a question. Frankl believed we're asking the wrong question. Most of us go through life wondering, what do I want? What can I get out of this? What will make me happy? But Frankl turned that thinking on its head. He said, life is asking me, what do I do with this moment? This wasn't philosophy for the sake of words. It came from experience, from seeing men live and die in camps, and noticing that those who found meaning didn't always have more, but they gave more. They responded more. To Frankl, meaning was never something we hunted like a prize. It was something we made through the choices we made each day, especially in difficulty. It wasn't about chasing some grand destiny. It was in the moment you choose kindness when you're tired, the moment you tell the truth, even when it's easier to lie, the moment you reach out to someone else, even while your own heart is breaking. He believed that even the smallest act, done with intention, could hold deep purpose. A smile offered to a stranger, a word of encouragement whispered to someone on the edge, a decision to keep going when no one would blame you for giving up. These were not just actions, they were answers. Because life, Frankl believed, isn't something to conquer. It's a question, and we respond to it, not with words, but with how we live. Even in silence, even in pain, our choices speak. And what they say is this: we still matter. Next, we follow Frankl beyond the camps, into a new chapter where, despite unimaginable loss, he would turn pain into a message that would echo across the world. After learning to respond to life with intention, even in suffering, Viktor Frankl returned to a world forever changed. The war had ended, but the losses remained. Part 5: The Will to Meaning. Frankl returned to Vienna with no family waiting for him. His wife, his brother, and both his parents, all gone. The silence was immense, but instead of being swallowed by grief, Frankl chose to serve that silence, to give it form, and to let it speak. He sat down, and in just 9 days, he poured his soul onto paper. The result was a book that would touch millions: Man's Search for Meaning. This wasn't just a memoir, it was a message that life is not about comfort. It's not about avoiding pain. It's not even about being happy. It's about meaning. Frankl argued that humans are not driven by pleasure, like Freud claimed, or by power, like Nietzsche believed. What we truly long for is purpose, the will to meaning. That purpose can take many shapes: a loved one to care for, a task to complete, a truth to stand for. But whatever it is, when we hold it close, it gives us something no suffering can take away: a reason to keep going. It gives us something to rise for, to endure for, to return to ourselves for. Frankl's life became the ultimate proof of what he had found: that even in the face of death, meaning survives. And that is what gives us dignity. Not what happens to us, but the purpose we live by. Now, as we close this story, we return to the heart of Frankl's message, a truth that whispers not just through his words, but through the way he lived. You are more than your pain. Viktor Frankl's story isn't just about surviving the Holocaust. It's about the quiet, powerful truth that no one, not even the darkest force on earth, can take from you: your ability to choose meaning. So if you're lost, if you feel empty, don't ask, why me? Ask, what now? Meaning isn't something you find out there. It's something you decide to create, even when you feel like you have nothing left. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not the wound. You are the healer that rises from it. Let your pain speak. Let it shape you. Let it open your heart, not harden it. Every moment you are writing a story, not with what happens to you, but with how you respond. That is your greatest freedom. That is your quiet power. And if the world ever makes you forget that, come back to these words: those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. Viktor Frankl. So take a breath. Feel your heart. Look around. There is still meaning to be made. There is still life to be lived. There is still a reason, even if you haven't seen it yet. If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs hope today. Comment below, what gives your life meaning right now? Subscribe to Mindful Way TV for more true stories that heal, awaken, and inspire. Because this isn't the end. This is the beginning. And remember, the quietest truths are often the ones that change us the most. Your journey inward starts here.